Thank you for being here today, Ledianis. I really appreciate your time, and what a great way to close off the week. I know it's been a busy one all around, and truly appreciate you spending some time with us today. Um,
Thank you.
well, what I always like to start with is just getting a sense of, how you got into the job you have today, because as I was mentioning before we started recording, um, I think people learn a tremendous amount from hearing someone else's story, just because everyone's story is a little unique. And I think it's reassuring to people to hear that you don't just have to graduate from a program and end up in a specific job. So I'd love to hear a bit about your story, Ledianis, and how you got to the job you're in today.
Great. Thank you, Imran, for having me. It's a pleasure. Well, the fact that I'm not originally from Canada, I guess, adds a little bit of layers to that.
Big time.
I came here in 2009 as a skilled worker via that program for potential immigrants. And my background was in corporate communications. Apart from doing quite a few jobs before I came here, like mid-career professional, so
Right.
I had done a few jobs that always the common denominator had been administrative skills with a lot of client service. So coming here as a newcomer, almost 15 years ago, I was eager to start proving myself in any environment, to tell you the truth. And that's usually what happens to newcomers. Today, what I'm doing is basically that. I'm helping newcomers find work. So I work at World Skills Employment Center as a director of client services. And it's funny because when we have events and we talk to the clients and there is any opportunity, we say, we relate to your experience. So how I came to be the director of client services at World Skills, it's maybe a long story, but I've been there actually almost since I came. I've been there now, it's going to be 14 years this year. So
Oh,
yes, I started as a volunteer at World Skills and as a client. We
amazing.
always tell newcomers, you have to volunteer. It's a great opportunity to learn, to try your skills, to see if you fit. And that's what I did. I was not happy at first because I said, as a newcomer, I need a paid job. And because it didn't appear quickly for me, because that's a challenge that newcomers face, of course, as you know, environment. There are quite a few challenges there. It took me some time, actually, exactly 5.5 months. And I said, you know what, it's not happening for me, so I'm going to start volunteering, which I started doing a month after I arrived. And it was really interesting to meet the people, to realize that the skills I was bringing from my country of origin were as relevant, that my English was good enough to interact and understand everything that was being told.
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, so again, became a client, benefited from a few programs, including an English writing course. Then an opportunity came and I became an administrative assistant, despite the fact that I had over 15 years of experience in more senior roles with responsibilities, supervising responsibilities in my country of origin. But I said, you know what? I want to start and I want to prove myself and I want to show Canadian employers that I have the skills that it takes to succeed here. So, I mean, long story short, promotions came my way. I became an employment counselor, then coordinator, then a manager, and today I'm the director of client services. And I oversee four programs at World Skills and a few processes related to client services. And it's a pleasure, and I love my work.
Um, I am always glad I asked this question, Ledianis, because of stories like that. That is incredible. Um, And that's quite something to think. When you said you came in 2009, I thought, oh, that's not that long ago. That's 15 years ago. That's wild to think, and think about how much has changed since then. So I definitely have questions about, how you've seen job searching change in that time. But one thing I just want to hold on for a second is the fact that you had the humility to start again and take on less senior roles to gain experience. I think that's such an important takeaway, because I can imagine that was difficult. But I think it's so admirable that you had that approach, and I hear that all the time, that that's necessary, when you want to make a change. But it's always reassuring to meet someone who's gone through it. And not only that, but really excelled. So starting with the volunteering there, I think that's something that people can do. I think that's an interesting way to build relationships and connections and start to meet people in the new community. And maybe in this episode we can focus on newcomers because you have that background.
Yeah.
So today, are those same kind of experiences still available? Are there still opportunities to volunteer at, an organization like World Skills or in other similar roles?
Absolutely. And I mean, for volunteering, it's not only the fact that you get to enhance your network, which is, so important for job search, but also it's for me, it was a lot of validation. It's the wondering, can I do what I used to do here? Can I use the skills here? It's a totally different environment. I mean, I don't mind saying I come originally from Cuba, totally different culture.
Right.
Totally different work environment expectations, I would say as well. So the fact that you can start volunteering, and this happens to most of our clients when we recommend volunteering, and also we call it, I mean, I like to call it strategic volunteering, because of course volunteering is one of those core Canadian values because people want to help and want to give back. But for our clients, what we say, try to volunteer in a place where you can somehow get closer to your employment goal, your career goal, where you can use your skills in a way that it can add to your arsenal of tools as a job seeker, practicing the skills. If it is customer service skills, if it is using a computer, if it is exchanging with others, if it is communicating with colleagues and emailing stakeholders, right? So there are many opportunities still available. There are programs that actually exist to promote these opportunities for newcomers. And I'm going to mention one here. There is one program with CSC Vanier, which is called Experica 2.0, that is exactly created to provide opportunities for newcomers to have unpaid internships and then have opportunities to, again, be immersed in the Canadian workplace environment. And again, it adds so much value to their process because it's that validation of I can function in a workplace environment in this new country, and the skills that I have are as valid. And for example, because it's funny, when I started as an admin assistant, I always remember when I was getting my new job, someone was handing over and they were explaining the skills and Outlook, and this is what I do. And I said, yes, I've been working with Outlook for a long time. I usually create folders and I, make sure that depending on who's writing, those go to the folder so there's more organized. And they were really impressed, right? Like they were looking at me and like saying, oh, wow, because I was new and again, English is not my first language and so on. And I said, yeah, I mean, if you know how to use a computer, luckily, thanks to globalization, you use it as well here or in Japan or in Europe, right? So the
Right.
skills
Yeah.
are absolutely transferable. So there are many opportunities still. We at World Skills usually also bring newcomers who want to volunteer and practice skills. So right now we have, I think, 3 individuals who are newcomers helping us and at the same time growing their skills and their network. So yes, I would say that there are opportunities available and it's a way to add, again, tools to your job search process.
That makes a ton of sense, and I can really see it being a great way to build confidence in a setting that's again so ingrained in the Canadian culture here, and I'm sure cultures abroad as well for people who end up being newcomers who are leaving Canada. But I think it's a great way to build that skill while trying to help people. I've always thought that as soon as you put yourself in that mentality, you take a lot of pressure off trying to, be impressive or stand out, and
Yeah.
you focus on helping and ends up opening all these doors unexpectedly. So I think it's great for that reason too. And the other thing I appreciate you mentioning is, the time frame it took you to find that role.
Mhm.
I think people don't recognize it might take 5.5 months, and get frustrated after a month or so of not hearing back
Yes.
from opportunities or not being able to find something. So would you say that's still a bit of a common time frame now? Does it tend to be a few months before, you might find an opportunity for work or for volunteering?
Yes, I would say it's still the case, Imran. And I mean, 5.5 months took me, but it can take someone even a year, right? Because it all depends also on the background. So in my case, because mostly what I bring to the table are the people skills, I don't have a technical career, right? So I came from that background of communications, again, client service. For individuals who are in more technical careers, such as engineers, people in IT sector, translators, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're not talking even about the regulated professions, because that's a different layer when you have to actually meet some requirements to be able to practice your profession in Canada. But anyway, 6 months to 1 year, it's still, you would say an average time that it would take a newcomer to get a job that is commensurate to their skills and education in Canada. I think they can start what we like calling transitional jobs, not the other word that is not very positive.
Yes,
So
I know.
transitional jobs so that they can start, again, enhancing their skills, putting their foot in the door, which is that phrase that we use so much in terms of job search, and flexibility. And I appreciate that you were saying that, I embraced that idea when I came.
Yeah.
Flexibility is really, really important. It's opening the doors, because you don't know what's going to happen after that door opens, right? There can be another door. And then you have an opportunity to showcase yourself in other ways. If you're not in a job, you cannot do it, right? So once you're there,
Yes.
and again, our clients are, coming to the work that I do, there's so much talent, right? Like
No,
I'm
I know.
constantly impressed by the talent they bring. And there is no way in any of these individuals, once they start either volunteering or working, even if it is an entry-level job, they will wow anyone who's working with them, because there's so much talent they bring. So flexibility is really, really important as well, and have that mentality and open mind. The mindset to say, I know I was here before, but I'm willing to start here because I know, and I'm motivated. Not only willing, because willing too has this connotation of, I'm settling, but it's actually being excited about the opportunity. It doesn't matter how below what we were doing before it could be. It's that it means you're breaking that, breaking the ice and saying, I can do this here, and I want to show you, and you want to keep me, and you're going to promote me, right? It's having that self-confidence, like you were saying as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I have a question on how you went about climbing the ladder once you did get your foot in the door. And I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. But before I forget, one thing I wanted to ask was, um, or highlight was this concept you mentioned that if you get your foot in the door, if you enter the workforce, even as a volunteer, you can start to show off. Maybe there's a better way to say that, but people will start to see the skills you have, kind of like you mentioned with your approach to using Outlook and creating folders, right? You were there, so
Yeah.
people could see that.
Yeah.
And so many times, like you said, I will meet these highly skilled newcomers, mid-career professionals who excelled in their field back home for them, and they'll say things like, "Oh, well," they won't mention any of those skills because they feel like they're not Canadian workplace experience skills. So
Exactly.
they completely ignore that, unknowingly, because they just haven't recognized that the Canadian workplace really values those skill sets. So I just wanted to, for
Yes.
the newcomers watching this, just emphasize what you were saying
Yes.
there, 'cause I think it's so important.
Yes, and actually, I've seen clients of ours that sometimes do not even have their international experience in their resume, because they said, no, but this is not here. And we
Exactly.
say, no, absolutely. You have to showcase those skills, because that's who you are. No one can take that away from you. I
Yeah.
mean, the skills that you built, the experience that they have accumulated before coming to Canada and being in a workplace environment here, it's still relevant, absolutely relevant. And again, the transferability, which is such an important concept when we talk to our clients, is, and to newcomers, is understanding that even if in different environments, yes, you haven't done this job with this job title. And that's another thing, they come with different job titles that you have to understand. Okay, so tell me what you used to do. So
Yeah.
when they say that, then you say, oh, okay, so maybe here, this is how we can call it, so that employers understand that once they look at your resume, right? So it's that transferability, it's there. No one can take that away from them, right? So it's very, very important for them to recognize, and that's something that we help them do. It's recognize that the skills they bring are as valid as if they had accumulated them here. And yes, it's challenging, the Canadian work experience piece, and the fact that for some professions it may be more relevant than for others, and that's absolutely true. Like an engineer, the codes and the construction, right? They have to understand. But for many other professions, especially the ones where mostly what you need are people skills, what we call the soft skills, that are
Right.
not that soft,
I
but
know.
very important. Yes, so these are as relevant anywhere, like we were just saying, right? So some technical skills, again, the way you communicate with individuals, yes, sometimes you have to get the hang of it here, right? So it's
Right.
if you're in Canada, the handshake, the eye contact, and these are things that we also share with our clients in terms of workplace, Canadian workplace culture, and totally understandably how some people could feel a little bit intimidated and maybe not as self-confident entering such a new environment. But we just, they just need to understand that it's an experience that all Canadians understand as well, right? So Canada is a country of immigrants. So we all have an accent, we all look different, we all have been new at one point or another in our lives in a particular environment. It's a human experience for most individuals. So it's a matter of believing, and again, self-belief, and saying, I can do this, and I have accumulated enough knowledge, experience, and skills that I can come and just be successful here.
You took the words out of my mouth there, Ledianis, because I was just going to say that Canada is so multicultural, and many times I will hear people doubt themselves because they have an accent. And I really like what you said. I think it's a great attitude to say, I speak English well enough to be able to get in there and get started. When you were starting here as a newcomer. And I think that's the right mentality because so many times it's part of what makes you unique and memorable. And because of how multicultural this society is, it can be a huge advantage if you speak another language or can, like you said, just connect with someone who, might also be from where you're from. So it's
Yes.
not something you have to, like for newcomers watching this, it's not something you have to feel worried about. It's an advantage you can leverage. And that's kind of the next question I wanted to ask you uh, is as you started to, take on more senior roles, did you did you put yourself out there to find those roles, or did people notice the work you're doing and offer them to you, or was it a mix of both along the way? Because I think people also watching this want to know, not only how to get a job, but how to excel in it and how to progress and get promoted. So what was that process like for you?
Yes, thank you for asking that because there's a variety of things there. So, I mean, especially the fact that I was not interested in supervisory positions here. When that came to me back in 2015, is when I, for the first time, became a coordinator and then had supervisory role. That was not what I was looking for, but it happened and I embraced it. Why I was not looking for it is because it was a little bit challenging for me in my mind. I said, wow, supervising here. I had done that in Cuba, but everyone was from Cuba. Like we had similar values,
Yeah.
similar way of working, similar work ethics, right? So now being a supervisor here implies managing people, which is the most complex aspect of having a supervisory role, because you can supervise processes, you can create processes and then do the work. And they say, I have to come from A to Z, so I can do this. And,
Yeah.
being just a regular individual with some training, you can do that easily. The most difficult piece is the people, managing the people, understanding and being a leader that it's fair, compassionate, and that creates safe environments for the team, right? So that was my main concern. And I said, I was not looking for this. But again, going back to what you asked me is, it was a combination of things. I mean, because I was not looking to be promoted, especially. I was so happy in Burma, I have to tell you. I may not be the average newcomer because I never experienced the lows, the when you are here and then you're like, oh, I'm not sure. There is research out there that says the honeymoon phase, and then you go. I
Yeah.
was always in the honeymoon phase. If you ask me, I'm still there
Uh,
because I came here and I understand. I understand that others sometimes are forced to leave their country of origin, which I really, really feel for them. I know that people come as refugees, so that's a different reality, and I respect that entirely and 100%. And I again, it's my heart. It's in pain when I hear those stories. But in my case, as a skilled worker, it was my choice. I came because I wanted to come. And luckily, I came with my partner, again, as a skilled worker. And I was so happy. I wanted to be an admin assistant, and I did the best I could do as an admin assistant, as a program support. And maybe that's what was shining, right? So I remember even just over an anecdote, I volunteered to be the lead of the social committee because even
Whoa.
though I didn't want to be a formal leader or supervisor, it was really at the beginnings when I started there, let's say 2010. I said, I'm going to be the lead for the social committee. And that's something that we have an initiative at World Skills to organize events for employees, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember once we were choosing the venue, where do we go to do the summer events? And then I created a PowerPoint with pictures of the venue and why this venue, etc. And it was funny because I was just all over the place with the PowerPoint for the venue and the event. And someone said to me, she was part of the management team. She said, no one had ever presented a potential venue for a social event like this. And I'm like, okay, so there you go. I like to do PowerPoint presentations, and I thought that it would be a good idea to do this. So being yourself as well sometimes, because this is who I am. I didn't do it just thinking like I have an agenda here. I'm going to go and do this. I never did it because I had another motive. It's just because that's who I am. So bringing yourself and your authentic self to your work experience and your workplace is also really important. And I do understand that. And we always say this to the clients. Job search is a two-way street. You cannot, I just need a job. I have to go there and get it. It doesn't matter where it is. No, no, no. You have to work at a place that allows you to be your authentic self and bring that joy and, joie de vivre, whatever it is that you are, to
Yeah.
your workplace so that you can shine. Because if you are not in the right place, you won't shine, right? So maybe that's a combination of things. The fact that I brought those skills, and again, being a communications professional, you have this usually personality where you enjoy putting yourself out there as an extrovert as well, right? So a combination of being myself, people noticing skills, me jumping on opportunities, even if I felt I was not 100% ready, but saying I'm 75%, so why not give it a try? And
Yeah.
that's how I got my first role as employment counselor. And from there, again, more growth opportunities, but again, a combination of things. And again, even before I came here, being bold in terms of trying new things and saying, I think I can do it. I've never done it before, but why not try? I've never been afraid. And I remember in eighth grade, I say something to myself. I said, if one human can do it, I can do it. At least I was very young that time because someone said that eighth grade was really hard and I was afraid that I would pass. But I said, if one other student can do it, I can do it. It's again, that attitude is really, really important for people who are experiencing new things in life and trying to get to a point in which they maybe were not before ever.
Well, it's funny. I grew up with that expression. My pa would say that all the time. My grandmother would say that all the time. My mother says that. So I think being around that type of attitude makes a huge difference. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying. You need to be in a workplace, or around people that encourage that kind of thinking. And I think it's doing things like making the PowerPoint that start to build your confidence. And I think it's interesting that you said, because I was just speaking about this yesterday, what makes good leaders. And I think it is this combination of being passionate about what you do. Okay, there's an event coming up. Let's put together this PowerPoint. No one's asked you to do that, but you're excited, and then that comes through in your work. And it's not that you're looking to take on this next role, but people recognize it. And then you kind of also have to be willing to jump into the unknown. And so many good things can happen from that. And what I was talking about yesterday is this interesting thing that it's not only you that benefits from that, it's all the people that you end up taking care of. And you mentioned this early on that, you know, for you, you care about the team and making sure that there's support and that your team is looked after. And I think it's important to mention this for people who are considering moving into leadership positions. You can do a lot for yourself, but you can also do a lot for everyone else who ends up
Yes.
looking to you as a leader. So there's this connection to what you were saying before about, trying to help as a volunteer. And I think that holds true throughout your career growth. So I'm always grateful to meet leaders like yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, just I think that's always special to hear. And do you have any advice for people who are maybe new to a leadership role? as you entered those positions and started managing people in a totally different environment, do you have advice for people who might be new to a role like that?
Advice is a big word, but you're asking me what I can say. I think that's really, really important for leaders to, when you're working with other individuals and you're responsible somehow for the way the results of the team are achieved, it's to see them as individuals. They're not, I remember, I mean, I always say to my colleagues when they introduce me somewhere socially, they say, this is my manager. And I say, I'm your colleague.
Uh,
And I mean that 100%. It's not that I'm trying to have this false humility. I mean it 100%, because you have to work with people at your level, right? You are working together to achieve a result. If you put yourself in a different, level, it won't work. You have to work alongside them at the same level, because you are collaborating again to reach a common objective. And the best way to do that is by being your equal. It doesn't work when I'm like, I'm here, so, like I know what I'm talking about. Maybe you're not as sure. No, that's not the approach. So I would say work alongside your team members as equals, share, ask for their ideas in a genuine way, not just because I have to check a box of this is the way I should do it. Listen to them. We are sometimes wrong, all of us as humans. So don't assume that because you are in charge, you are always right. Again, we're surrounded by so many individuals, and sometimes the best way to lead is to understand that people are smarter than you. And the fact that you can see that, identify those strengths and optimize those strengths for the betterment of whatever task we're facing, that's what makes teamwork amazing. When you say, wow, I'm so happy that I realized that this other person can do this, because I really am not really good at this. I'm better at this, so I'm willing to bring that other skill to the table, right? So I think it would be overall that, working alongside your colleagues as equals and bringing the best in people by identifying their strengths and putting them to best use. And that way we complement each other. And that's magical when it gets to happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And quite honestly, that's the type of leadership I respect the most. And not just saying that, people who are leading by example within the team, not from, afar. Um, so again, thank you so much for sharing these insights today. Ledianis, I have so many more questions for you, but I know we're at the time I asked you for today. So I just want to say I really appreciate it. I think people will learn a tremendous amount from your insights and experience, and I hope you'll join us again in the future, so I can ask you the dozens of other questions I have. But for today, I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun. You're a great interviewer, by the way. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I'd be happy to join any other time if you think that's it's going to be valuable. Thank you so much,
Abs-
Imran.
Absolutely. And one thing, oh, just before you go, you mentioned a internship program. We'll put a link to that in the chat, in our comments.
Yes.
Um, and that's for mid-career professionals, or is that for students? Can you just talk briefly about
It's
that?
for any newcomer. So it doesn't matter which level of career they're at. It doesn't matter their sector. So you will probably see more when we share the link for people who would be interested. But it's a wonderful program. They can be Francophone, Anglophones. It's a bilingual program, and we refer many of our clients there, and it really works great. Has great statistics for people getting jobs after completing that program.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you again so much for the time today, Dianis, and I
Okay.
hope we talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Imran. My pleasure. All
Have a
the
great
best.
weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.